What's up, Richard Timbers here. Here is my throwback segment where I talk about the films that turned 10, 20, 30, and 40 this week. Alright, the films celebrating their 10th anniversary. Oh boy, can't believe these are 10. The final installment of Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Awesome there. Now, of course, this is obviously the final installment of the Hunger Games franchise. And I really thought the final installment was a pretty decent one. Of course, with Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, or in where like Katniss Everdeen, played by Jennifer Lawrence, leads a team of rebels to Panem to liberate it from like the leadership of Snow, played by Sutherland. And obviously, this would go on to be the final Hunger Games film we end up having until the recent one from 2023. Obviously, we have a new one coming out next year, so yeah. But I thought the final summit was a pretty decent one. All right, also turning 10 is The Night Before. The Night Before is an R-rated Christmas comedy starring Seth Rogen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Anthony Mackie. And it's about these three childhood friends who reunite on Christmas Eve in search for the best party in New York City. And you do got a fun cameo by Miley Cyrus, which I really quite like the Miley Cyrus cameo. You do got the likes of Lizzie Kaplan popping up, Mindy Kaling, Tracy Morgan's even in this, Micah Shannon, a fun cameo by James Franco. I really had a fun time with The Night Before. I remember seeing this one in theaters all the way back in 2015. It was hilarious. The chemistry with Rogan, Levitt, and Mackie was great. Lizzie Kaplan popping up was pretty fun. It's a really hilarious movie. If you guys never seen The Night Before, do yourself a favor, give it a go. It's a fun Christmas comedy. All right, also turning 10, we got a couple of small affairs. The movie Carol, directed by Todd Haynes, starring Kate Blanchett, Rooney Mara. And it's also pretty much set during Christmas time. We're in New York City during the 1950s. Carol tells a forbidden affair between an aspiring female photographer and an older woman, played by Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara. Of course, this did score a couple of Oscar nominations. Todd Haynes did a good job directing. Really decent little film. Uh, Blanchett and Mara both had good chemistry with one another. It's a really decent film that's well worth watching there. There's also the terrible remake of the film Secret in Their Eyes, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor, Julia Roberts. It is actually based on the Swedish movie of the same name. The remake really wasn't so good. There's also a Legend, which is the gangster movie starring Tom Hardy as the Cray twins. Really fun little, intense film there. Tom Hardy played two characters in this. He did a great job. You had Taron Egerton, Chaz Palminteri. Really good gangster movie that's well worth a watch. It's pretty much like the British Goodfellas in a way. Alright, also now turning 20 this week, we of course got Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which obviously was the fourth installment of the Harry Potter franchise, where Harry's fourth year in Hogwarts as he is chosen by the Goblet of Fire to compete the Triwizard Champion tournament. And I really now it's not my favorite out of the Harry Potter franchise. Like I admit, my favorite is probably Prisoner of Azkaban. But I really still enjoyed it. Obviously, we're going to spawn other sequels like Order of the Phoenix, obviously the Deathly Hallows films and all. I know Goblet of Fire was a really decent installment. That's what we're watching there. Alright, also turning 20 is Walk the Line, which is of course the biopic about Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. This movie, of course, got Reese Witherspoon her first Oscar. Well deserved there. Directed by James Mangold, who recently put out A Complete Unknown last year. Walk the Line is terrific. Great performances by Joaquin Phoenix. Reese Witherspoon's terrific in this. They embody Johnny and June Cash perfectly. Really wonderful film there. Also turning 20 is Breakfast on Pluto, directed by Neil Jordan, starring Cillian Murphy as a trans woman, founding search for love and a long lost mother here. It does take place in 1970s London. This is probably a movie that would not get made today, but Cillian Murphy still did a good job here. Uh, really admire this character perfectly here. Uh, Sadly, a lot of people will probably call this movie woke today, but it is what it is. All right, film turning dirty this week is Goldeneye. Of course, the first installment of Pierce Brosnan's James Bond trilogy. And I really quite enjoyed Goldeneye. Of course, you might remember Goldeneye from the mostly the video games. Remember the Game Boy games of Goldeneye. Obviously, you got Sean Bean who plays the villain in this one, and of course, you got James Bond who fights to prevent a rogue ex MI6 agent from using a satellite weapon against London to cause a global financial meltdown. And Pierce Brosnan, like, I still think maybe Sean Connery is one of my favorite Bonds, but Pierce Brosnan definitely embodied the Bond role perfectly. He had the schwa as Bond, and this is definitely his best Bond movie he did. Then obviously he will go on to do other Bond movies like Tomorrow Never Dies, uh, Die Another Day, and so on. All right, also turning dirty is The American President. Of course, directed by Rob Reiner, starring Michael Douglas and Annette Bening. And the film stars Michael Douglas as the American president, Andrew Shepard, who's a widow who is pursued a relationship by the novelist, played by Annette Bening. Rob Reiner did a good job directing this one. Of course, the chemistry with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening is terrific. You also do got the likes of Martin Sheen, Richard Dreyfuss, Michael J. Fox is in this one. Really a remarkable film that is well worth watching there. All right, also turning dirty is the romantic film It Takes Two, which stars Chrissy Alley, Steve Guttenberg, and the Olsen twins. Obviously, this was coming off when the Full House ended, so the Olsen twins was like obviously trying to branch out away from Full House and stuff. And this is a really obviously there was loads of other Olsen twins movies over the years as well. This is probably one of my favorite movies they've done together. It focuses on like these two look-alike girls who meet by chance at a summer camp. One is an orphanage while the other is a wealthy Harris here. And of course, they decide to act as matchmakers for their parent figures. And obviously, Chrissy Alley, Steve Guttenberg was both good in this one. It is a really nice, charming film. The chemistry with Alley and Guttenberg is terrific. The Olsen twins was pretty decent as well. Really decent romantic comedy there. Also turning dirty is The Crossing Guard, directed by Sean Penn, starring Jack Nicholson, David Morse, Robin Wright, Angelica Houston. And it tells the story of Freddie Gale, who's a man who has been terminated for more than like 5 years by his daughter's death in a car accident. And when he finds out that the man who was responsible for the death is being released from prison, he decides to seek revenge against him. And the movie is very intense at times. Angelica Houston's terrific. Jack Nicholson's great in this one as well. Really decent, independent drama. Probably one of Jack Nicholson's best performances in the 90s. Really good film there. All right, also, now turning 40 is not really anything to go by. Speaking of Steve Guttenberg, also turning 40 is Bad Medicine, about a plastic surgeon's son, played by Gutenberg, joins other culprit at a one man's medical school in Central America. Not a bad little film, but not anything to go by there. There's also Fever Pitch, not to be confused with the Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore film of the same name. This, of course, stars the likes of Ryan O'Neal, Catherine Hicks, who you might know as the mother from Child's Play, and it's about an investigative journalist gets hooked on the subject of his inquiry professional gambling here. And again, obviously very different from the Jimmy Fallon one. That one was not a remake of this, but still. Um, anyway, also turning 40 is King Solomon's Mines, which stars former Shogun star Richard Chamberlain, who plays explorer Alan Quarterman, who agrees to join the beautiful Jessie Houston on a mission to locate her audiologist father. You of course got Richard Chamberlain, Sharon Stone, Not really anything good by there. There's also the Christmas movie One Magic Christmas, starring Mary Steenburgen and Harry Dean Stanton, where an angel must show a mother the true meaning of Christmas. It is a really decent Christmas film. Like, maybe not as classic as, let's say, A Christmas Story or anything like that. It is a really decent one that's well worth a watch there. Um, who doesn't love a good Christmas movie, right? Anyway, that's pretty much it there. Let me leave you guys. Which of these films stand out to you the most? To me, the 10-year one is actually going to The Night Before. The 20-year one is actually going to go to Walk the Line. Goblet Fire is good, but Walk the Line is actually a better film. The 30-year one is going to Goldeneye. And the 4-year one is going to One Magic Christmas. Drop Hospital, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is